Okay. My fence isn't this ugly, but I do have a really ugly fence that I'm forced to look at all the time, and so I endeavored to change it. Fence pots to the rescue. Ta-da! So yes, these did a lot to improve my ugly fence, but then guess what happened? The white uniformity of the pots grew boring. So I bought these on Amazon. I'll put a link below if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. But I would actually suggest you find something that's laying around the house first to try this technique before buying anything. Alcohol inks are great on glossy, non-absorbent surfaces like these plastic containers, ceramic tiles, sheet metal, etc. And since my fence doesn't get a lot of sunlight, I figured the alcohol inks wouldn't fade very much. See below for a link to alcohol inks. Here's a stack of containers that I already colored a couple years ago. But you can see at this point they are pretty weathered. So I'm going to recolor them. Now I could use some blending solution and remove all this old ink from the pots and start with shiny bright white, but I'm going to try to avoid that step. You could say that these inks and the blending solution have an exclusive relationship. They reconstitute each other, but water does nothing to dried alcohol ink. To that point, these containers are full of dried alcohol inks that I used a long time ago, but I didn't throw the containers away because there's lots of color left in these that you can wake back up by adding blending solution or another alcohol ink color. Also save saturated paint brushes because they will reconstitute too. So what you have here is a little container. I squirted a little bit of blending solution in, and then I took a paintbrush full of dried magenta ink and dipped it in there and reconstituted all of that color. Later in the video, you'll see different application tools that I use besides paintbrushes. Oftentimes the ink kind of pools up together and gets dark, and you might not like that, so just using a towel to dab some of that back up usually solves that problem. How cool is it that I haven't used a single drop of new ink at this point? My bank account loves that, but I am using a lot of blending solution, which is not cheap. I have heard that many people make their own alcohol blending solution. You might want to Google that recipe. Remember all that silly stuff I said about not using any new alcohol inks? This little tool is so handy. It's made by the same company that makes the alcohol inks. Just like I saved the little containers full of dried alcohol inks and the paintbrushes, I also saved these little felt pads for later use. Well, there you go. There's 3 pots done in a really quick way. I don't care if I have to re-ink these in a couple of years when they fade, but if you don't want to do that, you might try spraying these with some 3M UV protectant. I'll put a link below for you to look at that. There is an awful lot of plastic in the world and floating around in our oceans, so I would suggest before you invest in this set of pots, maybe look around your house for any white pots that you can use first.